Joining me is Stuart Polk. He's Vice President with McLaughlin and Associates, an international research firm based in New York. We've done a lot of work with the firm over the years, and McLaughlin has worked with a variety of corporations and public affairs initiatives very successfully, and it's good to have you with us here, Stu. I'm curious, as you are continuing to do research projects throughout the country during all of this, what is the most important thing that you can advise a brand to do right now?
Well, thank you, Harris, for having me today. I would say the most important thing is looking at building relationships with your consumers and looking beyond transactional relationship and being more personal, something that people can relate to. I think that is the key point. And, you know, one of the most important things that you can do right now is be present. 9 in 10 adults are at home. They're listening, they're watching. There's a captive audience around this COVID-19 crisis that we're all facing. So it's a captive audience. So you're going to want to communicate. And 4 out of 5 consumers actually want to hear from brands. So they want to know what you're doing in response to the COVID-19 crisis. They want to know what you're doing for their employees. They also want to know, they find it reassuring to hear from brands that they know and trust. So it's very important to be present. You know, a lot of companies are saying, we're here with you and we're all in this together. So you're really going to want to try to distinguish yourself in the sense of just beyond, you almost have to use specifics when it comes to how you can use your product or how you can be a good corporate citizen in relating to people. So that's going to be a key point. Another thing to be is certainly being human more than just a business to someone. Right now, a lot of people's lives have been turned upside down by COVID-19. At home, they've been impacted financially. There's certainly health concerns, as well as some people whose families have contracted COVID-19. So there's a lot of concern. So how you can offer and be empathetic, show sympathy and support, as well as offer hope, that's going to be important and valuable to consumers when you're talking about reassuring. And then my last kind of point when it comes to building friendships and relationships with these people is actually, you got to take action. And the more that you can be an influencer, almost an architect to exactly how people can cope with the COVID-19, as well as what is it going to look like beyond as more states reopen their economy, how you are going to be part of that and how you can help people. That's going to be an important part. So taking action is clearly one of the most important things you can do as well.
That's great. Appreciate those insights. And I've always been curious about your line of work because you're in so many different research assignments and you're watching trends build over time. I'm wondering, what are you seeing that may be the most important thing that a brand or company should avoid in all of this?
Right. So I would probably say doing business as usual is what you want to avoid, because there's nothing usual about this situation. So you want to avoid that and being tone deaf. You got to understand and relate to, and this is where market research is valuable. You know, with market research, we can get a sense of how people are feeling, not just how they feel about a product, but what's going on in their lives. So you got to take that into consideration when you're talking and communicating with people. You got to strike the right tone. So if you're not aware of how people are feeling, you can't simply just use what you've normally been using, talk the same talk, and you gotta adapt how you communicate with people. So striking the right tone is going to be extremely important. And right now, people want to see, what are you doing in this particular moment in time? So simply doing business as usual probably is not the right approach.
Appreciate that. Makes sense. What's the most interesting thing? I'm sure you're seeing a lot of interesting developments, but what stands out to you as being the most interesting thing you're seeing right now in the work that you're doing?
Yeah. Along those lines of not doing business as usual, I say the most interesting is how people are repurposing their brands. Uh, and some of the things make sense. It's a natural fit, whether it's hotels housing healthcare workers on the front lines, whether it's alcohol distilleries making hand sanitizer, airlines converting passenger planes into cargo planes. The repurposing of this in this moment during the pandemic, it shows that, A, you're able to adjust, but B, you're doing something helpful. It's clearly you're trying to be a part of the solution beyond what you normally do. So this is when you say we're all in this together, that repurposing really shows that you're making the efforts. You're going above and beyond to do whatever it takes, to help not just consumers, but the community, the public at large.
It's interesting. I've marveled at that very thing, sort of the resilience of the American people and American companies and the ingenuity that's been reborn, frankly, the last few weeks. How do you think this repurposing concept will have a long-term impact on brands down the road as we come out of this?
Oh, I think it's going to have a big impact. And when it comes to long-term, I think that people are certainly going to appreciate those companies that are able to adapt, evolve, and contribute to dealing with this pandemic specifically. So I think that's going to build a lot of trust and goodwill with consumers, with the public at large. So I think being able to repurpose, it's what everyone has to do right now in their lives. Everyone from, whether it's households have to kind of analyze and kind of change their habits and find creative ways to deal with situations, and companies will have to do the same. So being able to repurpose is part of that adapting, adjusting, and that goes also with how you communicate with consumers as well. You're going to have to be able to be flexible and adjust, and you're going to have to kind of repurpose your communication strategy from time to time as this unfolds. Different situations are going to be. Right now, we're trying to cope and survive through this pandemic. But then there's going to come the time where we're going to have to, as states are reopening the economy, what does that look like? How do you get people back on track in their lives? How do you get people who have been impacted negatively financially or health-wise? How do you help them? So you're going to have to be able to kind of be fluid throughout this entire situation.
Wise words. Thank you, Stu. That was Stuart Polk, a leading researcher with McLaughlin and Associates. Thanks.
Thank you, Harris.